Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, world. You are welcome to Morning Spring today, the first installment of the program for this week. Quite a beautiful morning for beautiful people. Thank God we are up and we are grateful. What we do here is to converse deep and frank, honest conversations about the Project Nigeria, in as much as about the public good. And it's worth talking about. This is where you get to have it and those discussions, had. Now, we come up here to identify issues, especially the ones that are in the public space. And of course, we look at what the issues are, identify the challenges, offer solutions to that. These are done by yourself and, of course, critical stakeholders, guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen who come on this program, patriotic Nigerians, who look into these issues wholly and offer their own view. This is why we are here. This is why we wake up every day to come here and have the discussions. Femi Ojo is my name. After a very busy weekend, we are back here and we greet you. Good morning. Well, good morning, Daniel.
Yeah, good morning, Femi. Trust you had a great weekend.
Well, my voice can tell. It was quite a busy one, but it was worth it.
Absolutely. And great to be alive. Exactly. Yeah, good morning to you, our distinguished viewers from all over the world. Thank you once again for joining us on Morning Spring. This is Western Spring Television. It's a fresh week. It's Monday. Thank God it's Monday. Who says we can say thank God it's Monday? People always say thank God it's Friday. Whatever happened to Monday? We should be happy on Mondays as well. Monday, the fact that it's Monday doesn't mean you should be, all grumpy and serious. Sometimes, just pretend, just convince yourself that it's a Friday and be happy. Make yourself happy, make it look like a Friday. That's the point. Thank you once again for joining us. This is Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. Daniel Emeka is my name. Just like Femi said, we start with newspaper reviews on the program, then we dive into critical conversations, insightful analysis to give you divergent perspectives of issues, matters of importance. That is what we do right here. If it truly matters, you get to hear it from us right here on Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. Once again, it's a pleasure to be here. Always a pleasure to know that you are there. Like I always say, without you, we won't be here. So thank you once again for joining us on the show this morning.
So much to talk about today. Over the weekend, we saw a newspaper publication that, and that is not one story that people wants to have. But the issue is, these are the reality. Last week we talked about in Faskari local government of Casino State, where bandits are entering. The people of those local government leaders are entering into negotiations with bandits.
Deals.
Deals. Peace deals, thank you. And of course, I think it has continued. We learned 2 other local government. The people there have entered some of these peace deals with these local government, with these bandits as well. And it speaks so much. Now, the question is that he raises is, where's the state? Where's the system in all of these? The people in charge of securing the people, now that the people feel very helpless and they would rather sign a bond or a peace deal, whatever name is called, with their abductors, with their captors, with their abusers. All right. And another point is this. There are some of those residents in the local government who are concerned about how long that kind of peace deal can last. Because they said some of those who attended, some of these bandits, some of them are wanted, by the way, by the state. Absolutely. And they came out. Yeah. They were open. They held microphones. They talked. They addressed the people and went back to wherever they came from. Now, 2 things. Those people who made that deal, they made it from the place of weakness. They made it from the place of no choice.
Absolutely.
So whatever those guys, whatever their demands are, the bandits, that's what they will abide by. And number 2, very importantly, is the concern raised by those residents that many of these bandits who came to that place came armed to the teeth. That you see them bearing RPGs, blaming Kalashnikovs. We saw one of them last week, with magazines, rounds and rounds of magazines strapped to his body. And they said that they came to that meeting. How can you come to a peace deal meeting with weapons? And they returned with same weapons. And some of them are worried. What kind of peace deal are you having? One day these guys can just rise up and destroy and kill, because whatever they came with, they still have it. So what kind of business are you doing that the people at the other end still have their weapons intact? And so he speaks to how helpless some Nigerians are feeling right now. And let me quickly add it. Now, it is very easy for those in power to say, you know, that's what they usually say, things are getting better. We have turned the corner. And then that no bandit or terrorist flag is being hoisted on any Nigerian soil. But the thing is this, a situation where residents are making peace deal with bandits, do they need any flag to be hoisted, you know, or hoisted on any land for them to know that there are some people that are in charge of that place? And unfortunately, the thing is expanding. It was Faskari last week. At the weekend, 2 more local government have joined because obviously they don't trust the state and they would rather tell the abusers, please, whatever you want.
It's quite unfortunate. It simply shows the deplorable states that we are in as a nation. And again, it boils down to the poor quality of leadership we are having. That's just it. Nigeria is a sovereign state.
It is.
Then we have, you know, people, you know, indigents of a state making peace deals with bandits. These guys are armed to the teeth, like you said. So just imagine you are negotiating with someone who's holding automatic weapons and you are barehanded. So what kind of negotiation is that? The negotiation is not even. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Like someone said, if you are holding a knife and I'm holding a knife, we can talk. But if you're holding a gun and I'm holding a knife, then the negotiation is skewed. Then if you're holding an automatic weapon and I have nothing in my hand, we are not even negotiating. My life is in your hands. So it's quite unfortunate. The deplorable state we found ourselves in is a clear indication of the failure of leadership in this part of the world, in Nigeria. You know, when we talk about it, it's not as if we're being pessimistic or we're just, you know, trying to antagonize leaders. Exactly. But the problem is we have to say it as it is. We are in a poor state right now as a nation, very deplorable state. And Malam Nasir El-Rufai said it. He said, Nigeria, that this is the worst administration so far. He said Nigeria has never been this bad, not even during military administration. Well, that's his own opinion. So people have their own opinions, but the fact remains that we are not in a very good position right now. Especially as regards security. Yeah, former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan talked about, you know, poor leadership in Africa. That is what is going on. Yes, we have leaders who rather hold on to power. Look at Cameroon, for instance. Look at Paul Biya. He's been there since 1982. Now, some Nigerians are having that same tendency. Interestingly, former President, what's his name again? Olusegun Obasanjo came out to say, well, no Nigerian can prove that he ever sought a third-term bid. And that's quite funny. I kind of laughed over it because he's quite a smart man. And truly, no Nigerian can actually prove that he, you know, requested a third-term bid. Because just before we move on, I heard it from his source, and when he was telling that story, how the president, this is just from his source, mind you, said that the president then, former President Olusegun Obasanjo, you know, walks into the office of his VP, you know, showed him that proposal, locked the door and said, go through this. And after reading it, collected it back and just shredded it. So there is no evidence. So where is the evidence that Obasanjo actually
I don't know, but there are so many political bigwigs who know and who said that they know what they know. Ayofayose is one.
But they don't have evidence.
Speaking of, Obasanjo cannot tell me this. But then, it is what it is. Not just about, as we take a break now, it's not just about Paul Biya. How about Yoweri Museveni in Uganda, who has just told these people, elect me once more, and after this, I'm done. Yoweri Museveni. Decades of being ruler. Paul Kagame in Rwanda as well. Because there is a conversation, although we look into that because of the program, that, okay, if you are seen to be doing well, can that make you to sit tight if your people want you? How about the rule of law in all of these? Everything falls and rise, you know, the desk of leadership. We take a quick break right now. When we return, we'll let you get informed and let you go through the front pages of different dailies as we have them today. Stay with us. All right, so we start the newspaper segment from the front page of the Daily Times. The Daily Times. Federal government revokes 1,263 mineral licenses for the 14 annual fees. Federal government revokes 1,263 mineral licenses for the 14 annual fees. All right, and below that you have the picture of the MBBF board member Alhaji Abakaka, executive director of Zenith Bank, right? Another executive director there, and the MBBF, that's back Nigeria Basketball Federation President Engineer Ahmed Musa, and some ladies there. There are team and MBBF Women's Basketball League held at Indoor Sports Hall of the National Stadium, Lagos at the weekend. Of course, the young shall grow and the young should grow, actually, and grow well. We wish these ladies all the best. Now, NIMET predicts 3-day rain, thunderstorms in Adamawa, Kaduna, Bauchi, and others. And Abbas 6 medical trade partnerships as Cuba strengthens ties with Nigeria. Abbas 6 medical trade partnerships as Cuba strengthens ties with Nigeria. Moving on, failed transactions, banks customers decry delay, tedious process of money reversal. There's a whole lot of problem in Nigeria. If you're so unfortunate that your transaction didn't go through, and unfortunately, possibly you have been deducted and the money has not reached the destination. Sometimes you wait 14 working days, you and all of those problems. You don't want to be in that.
Sometimes we say Otilo.
All right. ADC faction sues INEC for recognizing MAG and Aregbeshala. Big trouble in Little China there, you ask me. And CJN to inaugurate 57 new sons as senior advocate of Nigerians as Supreme Court marks new legal year, September 29. And top street, Zenith Bank's gross earnings hit 2.5 trillion and half one as the first half of 2025 declares 1.25 interim dividend. All right, that'll be all from the Daily Times.
And from the Daily Times newspaper, we move to the front page of This Day newspaper. On the front page of This Day newspaper this morning, El-Rufai, Tinubu planning life presidency, not genuine Democrats. El-Rufai, Tinubu planning life presidency, not genuine Democrats. With a rider, Renan Mokri, I love Jonathan, but I will support Tinubu in 2027. You'll find details of that story on page 5, talking about Malam Nasir El-Rufai, former governor of Kaduna State, and saying Tinubu is planning life presidency. Well, these are just allegations. Again, it needs to come out with facts, with evidence to prove that Tinubu is planning life presidency. And just like former governor of Rivers State said, Rotimi Amici, he said at one occasion that in Nigeria, what we have right now, that the people are too docile, that according to him, he said, if a madman should decide, to go for life presidency in Nigeria, that Nigerians will do absolutely nothing. Well, we just hope that that doesn't happen, because there's a limit to how much you can test the will of the people. I think leaders have taken Nigerians for granted for so long, but again, they should not take Nigerians for granted, because anything can happen. How can you just, say you want life presidency just because someone is doing it in Cameroon? It won't work in Nigeria.
Well, that's an allegation.
That's what I'm saying. That's his own opinion.
And even Mr. Amici that said Nigerians are docile and they are being taken for a ride, Nigerians will say you are part of it. Because he had talked about being stoned before. That, okay, like you want to end up in a particular way. But then, how Nigerians will say, who is he? Or what has he been? Okay, you have been part of the same system for long. Local government chairman, House of Assembly member and
twice,
speaker.
Exactly.
All right, from there you rose to be governor twice, minister twice. All of a sudden, just 2 years out of power, you are speaking for Nigerians. Good luck.
All right, away from that, still on the front page of This Day newspaper this morning. On the top strip, unreconciled federation funds, FAAC awaits NNPC. FAAC awaits NNPC on $42.37 billion. OAGF on 2 trillion naira pending payments with riders. Alleged unpaid monies cover 2011 to 2017. Ad hoc committee taxed national oil firm to account for exploration funds since 1999. Now, that's a tall order. They just have to account for it. Exploration funds since 1999. I've talked about it right here on this platform. Now, when you spend such monies, I mean, humongous amounts of money on exploration with nothing to show for it, you simply say, oh, we spent such and such billions of dollars on exploration with nothing to show for it. I think they should become more accountable, such that before you go on exploration, okay, on a wild goose chase, you must be sure of what you're looking for. Not that you just waste money, waste funds, and come out to say it was spent on exploration. Now they should start accounting for those explorations. And that is what our story is all about. Away from that, still on the front page of this day newspaper this morning. UK, Canada, Australia, others announce recognition of State of Palestine. More Israeli allies to follow. UK, Canada, Australia, others announce recognition of State of Palestine. More Israeli allies to follow. UK, Canada, and Australia did what they did. Now they're recognizing Palestine. But Israel is saying it will not happen. In the words of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he said it won't happen. That it's as if they're handing, the Palestine state a recognition, a bonus for the crimes they committed. On October 7, 2023, I still remember very vividly, it was a beautiful Saturday morning. I woke up to that news. I was shocked to my bone marrow. I thought it was false. I thought it was a lie. I had to check all the major news networks globally to see that it was actually true. The terror, unleashed on Israel on October 7, 2023, 1,200 killed, about 250-something captured. When I saw that, I felt for Hamas because I knew they've made a huge mistake. You don't do that to Israel. You don't do that to innocent people. So if you ask me, it's quite unfortunate. For every action, there are consequences, and we should always condemn acts of terror, no matter where it's coming from. Let's just hope they resolve their issues right here, because no one should congratulate anyone, for performing acts of terror. Away from that, still on the front page of this day newspaper this morning. Right there, at the middle of the page, you can see a picture of Zenith Bank MBBF Women Basketball League. Right there, that's Zenith Bank Women MBBF Basketball League. And that will be all from the front page of this day newspaper this morning.
All right. And of course, talking about the Israel and Hamas issue, sometimes it depends on who is saying what and to who. Now, the act of terror stands condemned. Either it's Hamas or it's Hezbollah or it's non-state actors, or it's one country against the other. But some will say, yeah, even as bad as that terrorism is concerned, the terror act actually of killing and abducting people, and many of them even died in the abductors. In fact, many of them possibly may be dead, and they have not just been announced as being dead. It's been a messy, terrible situation. But some people again will say this thing has been done against you. Many persons supported Israel in the beginning. Many of them even helped. Countries were divided on both sides. But many of those who supported Israel at that time, many of them are having a rethink now, because even against the run of play, there are issues, when it comes to war. I mean, there are laws, actually, international wars, conventions. Yeah, even in all-out wars and all of those things, there are things you do, there are things you don't do. And many of them who are now turning, all these UK, Canada, and the rest of them, they were allies with Israel in the first place. They supported, stood with Israel. But now the issue of bombardment that is looking so much like somebody who just want to alienate whatever remains of the Palestinians, and in which many people believe, okay, the other guys there, the Hamas, okay, don't pity them, don't do any of those things. But when you see, have you seen the pictures of recent of the malnutrition?
The innocent ones suffering.
Right. It's terrible. And even journalists have been killed over and over. People in the line of duty, doctors, all of those people, because anything that looks like, that sounds like, that smells like Hamas, or the few people are being used. Now, in some places, in time of war, some of the persons, the warriors, the soldiers, use humans as shield. And, the opposing side will feel, we can't do that now. Let's be strategic. Israel is not near any of those. Even is a hospital or a school or in any place, they come at them and any of those things, children are dying. Sometimes they even said they block, these aid trucks that want to bring food. This is not even about taking sides. Whatever being the case, everything starts from a decision. Everything will end as a decision. Absolutely. But the latest, with what we hear, the latest plan of Israel is to even occupy the whole of Gaza at all. In fact, more like bring it down to the rubbles. And, many innocent lives have been killed. But for the attack against Israel, it stands condemned, actually, from October 7th.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Sunday, just yesterday, about 550,000 people have fled Gaza City because Israel is moving in, massive bombardment, ground troops moving
this
in.
This place must be leveled.
And like you said, unfortunately, Israel has incurred, quite a huge amount of collateral damage. It has gone way high, it's very crazy, high right now.
Actually, and that's why many of their supporters are backing down to say, you can't go on with it. This is not making any sense. All right. And from that, we move to the Daily Trust and the Vanguard. Just take it together. Daily Trust, 53 security men killed in 2 weeks. You can see that that's not good news at all. 53 security men killed in 2 weeks. That's a big bold headline from the Daily Trust. These are men and women, that are supposed to protect the country, having life snuffed out of them by non-state actors. And the Vanguard has these crude oil imports hit record high as Dangote refinery reshapes trade flow. Crude oil imports hit record high as Dangote refinery reshapes trade flow. And top strip, Ted, okay, I think that will be all from the Vanguard.
All right, from the Vanguard, we go to the front page of the Punch newspaper this morning. On the Punch newspaper, IBAS rejects Assembly's move to probe 6 months spending. IBAS rejects Assembly's move to probe 6 months spending. Talking about River State's sole administrator who has just, left office, handing over power to the democratically elected governor, Siminai Fubara. He's against the move of being probed. He's saying they have no right to probe him, perhaps because he's a military man, retired military officer. So he believes the House of Assembly, State House of Assembly in Rivers State, do not have the powers to probe him. That's his own opinion, right? But below that banner headline, we have some riders. Ex-administrator insists lawmakers lack power to question tenure. Quite interesting. CSOs urge Fubara to hold IBAS accountable. Civil society organizations urge Fubara to hold IBAS accountable. You find details of that story on page 2. And of course, it should be held accountable. When you hold an office for no matter how long, no matter the duration, you should be held accountable. Oh. So there shouldn't be that excuse that the House of Assembly shouldn't probe him, shouldn't question him. No, if you have nothing to hide, why are you scared of a probe? You should give account of your time in office. And that's what the people are saying right there. Still on the front page of the Punch newspaper this morning. On the top strip, crude supply to domestic refineries hit 67.6 million barrels. Crude supply to domestic refineries hit 67.6 million barrels. You'll find that on page 33. And below that, Borno terrorist attack victims hospitalized in Cameroon. Borno terrorist attack victims hospitalized in Cameroon. You'll find that story on page 9. That is quite worrisome. If terrorist victims in Nigeria have been hospitalized in Cameroon, is it that we don't have systems there? Whatever happened to the healthcare system of that place? So many questions to be asked right there. It still boils down to failure of leadership at different levels, starting from the local governments. Now it's not just about the top alone. It's not just about the presidency alone.
Yes, level.
They all share the blame, but at all levels, everyone should be held accountable. And I guess that'll be all from the front page of the Punch newspaper this morning.
All right. And, the last story about Now, it's bad enough that you are being attacked by terrorists. And the survivors are now being, this is not a matter of being flown abroad now. Or what do they call it now? Medical tourism. Hey, it looks like a state of helplessness. That possibly the nearest facility that they can make do with is in Cameroon. Obviously, the place should be close to Cameroon, but then we are Nigerians, and these are the issues. Now, it's make one sometimes to sit and just think about what is the worth of the life of an average Nigerian. That's a big question. What is the worth of your life? If you are going out, are you sure you are going to return? You know, not because of nature, but because of the system in which anything can happen to you. And if you survive and you get help as soon as possible, the emergency system, you know, the firefighting system and all of those things. Do you have ambulances around that people can call? Do people even have these phone numbers? When they call these phone numbers, is there somebody at the other end that will pick it up? The person at the other end, how motivated is that person? Is he being well paid? Does he have everything needed to mobilize and say, let's go to this particular place? Because that's the worth. When there's a way you look at it and you feel like, what's my country doing for me? If actually you're in a fix, how fast can you be helped? We are not saying these things doesn't happen, but is it a system that works? There are some states that are maybe trying, especially when you talk about emergency system. That's what I'm hitting at. And there are sometimes they drop the ball as well. We are not God. We are not perfect. Some things go wrong. But okay, in Osun State right now, how easy is for you to get help if actually you're in a fix? Do people even have that information? I know there are some emergency services from the government and all of those things. But does the people know that if they're in a problem, there is a short code that they could press, 0001111, and somebody will pick it and tell you where are you, hold on there, and they will get you there. These things should not just be seen in American movies alone. These are the things you see. If actually you have a danger around you, is there a system put in place that you can call and you give them an address and somebody will not be asking you,
it's quite unfortunate.
In this area, in this place that we are in Nigeria. I remember, you know, this is not just what we watch a movie. You know, there were, I think, some Americans, is that two or one of them, that was kidnapped in Niger and brought into Nigeria, and the Americans mobilized to whatever is needed. And the guy was rescued. All the abductors were neutralized. They picked the guy with minimal or no support, and they took him back. That's what a citizen should enjoy. Before you know, because you know that in as much my government is aware, I'm good. But in Nigeria, how many persons can say, if my government is aware of my state, I'm good?
It's unfortunate. It's a systemic failure, and I've experienced it firsthand. You talked about emergency code.
Yeah.
Right here in Nigeria, I was in Lagos. Quite unfortunate. I was in a terrible state. In fact, that night I thought it was the end. Okay, so because I felt I was fading out. No one around. I mean, it's a secluded area. I mean, dead of the night, there was an emergency, and I called an emergency line, and the response was terrible, horrific. I know the way the lady was responding. I was like, "Can't you see? Can't you see? I'm fading out. I need help." And I realized when I dropped the call, I realized that it was useless. I mean, fruitless effort trying to reach emergency. So it was just between me and God.
Yeah.
And so that was when I made it. But you know, at that point, you start promising God things.
If you could just see
me through, exactly. But it's quite unfortunate when we have a government. There's a place for God, yes, but God has given us a leadership. We have leadership.
He has given us brains.
Exactly, brains, exactly. So we shouldn't just shift everything to God. Our leaders at all levels should be held accountable.
And why that kind of emergency call should not just be only the centralized one. Okay, all right. Now we have, you know, the centralized one. Is it 112 in the US now? 911 rather. Yeah. There should be emergency response team at local levels. Somebody in Abuja should not be picking my call to help me in Agumbeleu. I'm not sure that is right.
Exactly. It doesn't make any sense.
It's not right. Because that means the person has to call somebody, mobilize somebody, and then, you know, the chain of command and all of those things, which is still okay. But how about the local government? Either it's Oshogbo local government or Lorunda or Egbedo or somebody that can pick it up and tell who even knows the area.
Exactly.
Because it works better than somebody checking Google Map and technology.
And tell you, hold on, please stay on the line.
Technology can work, but what's even the quality of the internet service that they will have to use? But somebody who knows all of these things and will say, okay, this is this person here, and then you feel like your local government has your back. By the way, in Osun State, where is even the local government? You better, whatever.
Still on the debate.
These are some of the things. Take care of yourself. And as we take this break, that's why the topic of good neighborliness will always be important. Before you call somebody in Abuja and Lagos, better call your neighbor.
Absolutely.
Be in good place with one another. You can't overemphasize such person because that's the next best person. And if you guys are keeping malice, you get to have your issues sorted wherever it can be sorted. We go on a quick break, and when we return, the program will continue. Stay with us.